A freight train groans across a bridge above a dark ravine. Fog hangs over a creek called Kingsbury Run. It is dawn in Cleveland, late in the Great Depression. Two boys cut through the weeds to save a few minutes on their way to school. They stop, look again, and run for help. By noon, reporters are here. By night, the whole city has a new fear and a new name for the shadow that lives in the gullies, the Mad Butcher. Cleveland, in the mid-1930s, is a city of factories and rail yards, of men lined up for work that may not come, of soup kitchens and rooming houses. Trains roll in and out at all hours. The river bends through a low industrial district called the Flats. East of that, a tangle of gullies and tracks cuts through the city, Kingsbury Run. In those days, a hobo jungle sits there. Shacks, tent roofs, oil drum fires, a shifting crowd of the hungry and the lost. It is a place where a person can sleep unseen. It is also a place where someone cruel can use the cover of weeds, bridges, and dark water. The case we call the Cleveland Torso Murders runs from 1935 to 1938, though some people start it earlier and others push it later. The exact count of victims depends on whom you ask. Most official lists say at least a dozen. Some add more, and some include a woman found in 1934, Lady of the Lake, as a beginning that no one saw clearly at the time. What is not in dispute is the pattern, a series of killings centered around Kingsbury Run and the Flats, marked by skill, by planning, and by an offender who used the landscape like a curtain. This is a calm walk through that story. The city, the scenes, the work of the police, the role of the press, the suspects who were named and never proven, and the families and communities caught at the center. We will keep the focus on facts. We will keep people at the front. We will state clearly when something is unknown. Let's start with place, because place explains so much. Kingsbury Run is a low cut in the land where rail lines cross and a creek slips along under bridges. It is close to factories and storage lots, and it lies between neighborhoods that wealth has not protected. At night, there is almost no light under the trestles. A person moving along the water can pass under bridges without being seen by anyone up on the roads. If you are a predator, you could not ask for a better stage. If you are a person living rough, you could not ask for a worse neighbor. The first victims that most histories include are found in 1935. One is identified, a young man named Edward Andrassy. The other is not, and is listed as John Doe. The bodies are discovered in the scrub near the run. The scene is quiet, ugly, and careful. Whoever did this chose a place where the ground swallows noise. Whoever did this brought knowledge, how to work fast, how to leave little behind, how to carry and place remains without being seen on the main streets above. Police scatter through the area with notebooks and flashlights, working in teams, calling out to each other in the thin morning light. Reporters appear at the edges. A photographer adjusts a tripod and waits for permission to shoot. In early 1936, another set of remains is found, a woman this time. Her name will be learned, Florence Polillo. She had worked in small shops, lived in rooming houses, and, like many in that part of the city, was just getting by. The way her remains were left, separated, placed in multiple spots, shows both cruelty and plan. Police close doors behind them when they talk, so they can speak quietly. They bring in doctors. They bring in men who know the lay of the land. The river is checked again. The gullies are combed. Patrols are shifted. No one has a firm name for the offender yet. The papers will take care of that. They always do. As 1936 moves into summer, another victim is found. A man whose arms carry distinct tattoos. Even without a wallet or papers, tattoos should help, the detectives think. They show drawings of the tattoos to the public and ask for tips. People come forward and guess and remember and confuse. It is no one's fault. Life is hard. Memory is harder. The police do what they can with what they hear. They run down names. They show the tattoo sketches to men at the shanties and to barbers and to workers at the docks. Have you seen someone with marks like these? They ask. Sometimes the answer is maybe. Most often, it is a shake of the head. The count grows. The press finds a voice for the fear and sharpens it into two labels: Cleveland torso murderer, which is clinical, and Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run, which is theatre. Both stick. The first appears in cautious lines, the second in big headlines. With each discovery, with each afternoon of sirens and uniformed men climbing down to the waterline, the city's breath shortens. Mothers tell children to keep to main roads. Men who sleep rough pull their shelters together closer. The jungle by the run grows tense. Fights break out over small things. A place near a fire, a blanket, a rumor overheard and misheard. Predators love places where fear has already loosened the ties between people. Kingsbury Run becomes looser by the week. Who are the victims? The clean answer is people. Most are poor. Many are men without steady work, drifting between day labor, shelter beds, and odd jobs. Some are known to police for small things: being drunk in public, sleeping where the law said you could not sleep. A few are identified by name. Most are not. That fact hurts the families who looked for someone and never heard. It also hurts the investigation. To catch someone, you need to know who was chosen and why. If you cannot name the dead, you cannot trace their paths. You cannot find where victim and offender cross the line from public to private. The manner of the crimes points to a person who understands the human body in a way most people do not. It may be a butcher. It may be a person with medical training. It may be someone who learned for reasons that are hard to guess. The work is fast. It is confident. The surfaces of some remains show signs that suggest chemical exposure. Again, a detail that points to plan, rather than frenzy. There is no joy in stating this. There is only a duty to be clear. The murderer knew what he was doing, and he did it more than once. The police response grows. The city brings in more men for the investigation. They check rooming houses for men who have come and gone quickly. They watch the jungles. They ride the rails. They question hundreds, then thousands. They follow tips into barbershops, soup lines, freight offices, and cheap hotels. They work with the coroner to compare injuries across cases to see what repeats. They build timelines for each recovery. What time, which day, who might have been nearby. They fit those times against trains, shifts, and weather. A heavy rain might wash a path clean. A cold night might mean fewer witnesses. A strike at a factory might bring a stranger into a new block at a new hour. They mark it all. The public face of the city's law enforcement is a name some of you know: Eliot Ness. He came to Cleveland after making headlines in another city for breaking up bootlegging operations. In Cleveland, his title is Safety Director, a role with power over police and fire. As the murders continue, Ness does more than hold press conferences. He orders raids on the shantytowns along the run. He breaks up camps. He has men burn shelters. His logic is blunt. If the shadow hunts in these jungles, remove the jungles. The move brings praise from some and anger from others. It displaces people who have nothing. It also limits the offender's favored ground. Whether the raids helped end the killing or whether the end came from some other reason is still argued. A responsible narration says what happened and then says what we do not know. Cause and effect are not clear. There are suspects. There are always suspects when fear is strong. One is a man named Frank Dolezal, swept up because of links to an identified victim. He is questioned hard. He gives statements that shift. He dies in jail before a trial. Even in that time, some think the fit is weak. History settles on this. Dolezal is not the courtroom end to the story. He is a person who passed through it and left behind more questions than answers. Another name often mentioned is a doctor, Francis Sweeney, whose life had problems, whose skills match some of the crime's demands, and who is questioned by Ness in a way that left the safety director convinced. But Ness's conviction is not proof. The evidence that remains is circumstantial. The man is not charged in court. In interviews, the lines blur between what is known and what is guessed. For our purposes, the fair language is this. Sweeney is a frequently named person of interest whose guilt was never proven. Say it that way, and you keep your feet on the ground. Let's step into a scene the way a detective would, slowly, with a list in hand. A man on his way to work finds a bundle near a culvert and calls a patrolman. The patrolman checks and calls his sergeant. A perimeter goes up. People gather at the edges, whisper, point, and stare the way people always will. Within an hour, the coroner arrives, and the work of sorting and recording begins. The officers walk outward in a slow circle, eyes scanning the weeds for anything that belongs with what they have already found. A scrap of cloth, a footprint in mud, a mark on a branch, a place where the grass lies flat the wrong way. The notes they take are simple: time, place, weather, who found what, who touched what, who saw what. These details may matter later, they may never matter at all. Good work means you build the record anyway. At the station, men sit at a long table and build a map. They pin small flags at the places where remains were found and string coloured thread between points that look like they might belong to one outing. They draw lines for rail spurs and dirt roads. They shade the parts of the map where someone could park a truck without being noticed, and mark places where someone could carry heavy things down a slope. They circle pockets of light and wide pools of darkness. The map looks like a child's project and a war plan at the same time. Newspapers publish their own maps and their own theories. They print death masks, casts of the faces of victims who could not be identified, in the hope that someone will recognize a jawline or a scar. The city lets the masks be displayed for the same reason. People file through, some quietly respectful, some loud with curiosity, some angry that we have come to this. A few families come hoping for news and get it. Most leave with nothing but the weight of another unsolved face. The years bend toward 1938. In August that year, another discovery happens in a place close to downtown. Close enough that some say the offender was taunting the city's leaders on purpose. Whether it was a message or a convenience, it makes a point the press does not miss. Whoever is doing this is not afraid to work near the center of power. The frenzy spikes. The mayor asks for results. The safety director backs his men and promises more patrols, more searches, more everything. He also wants calm. The city cannot do its work if every day is a panic. Then the public list of victims stops. People argue about what ended the series. Did the offender die? Go to prison for some other crime? Move to another city? Learn that the ground had become too hot? Did Ness's raids disrupt the one landscape the offender depended on? We do not know. What we know is that the fear faded as the headlines moved on. We also know that families and friends did not move on. They carried the not knowing with them. They carried it to jobs, to bedrooms, to dinner tables, and to graves. What made the case so hard? Part of the answer is science. The 1930s did not have the tools we take for granted now. There was no DNA testing. Latent fingerprints could help when you had a matching print on file. But most of the victims were people without long police records and without the kind of work that puts you through fingerprint systems. The river and the run destroyed traces. Sun and rain damaged what was left. Part of the answer is social. When victims come from the edge of society, fewer people can say where they slept last night, who they ate with, who they argued with. Part of the answer is geography. The killer had space and darkness as partners. What about today? Many cold cases have found new light through genetic genealogy. Families built from DNA. Matches found not by direct hits in a criminal database, but by cousins and great-aunts in family trees. When remains from older cases are exhumed with care, it can be possible to extract enough genetic material to make a profile and begin a family search. When an unknown becomes a person with a name, an address, and a history, the old map lights up. You can see where they lived, where they worked, how they might have crossed paths with a place like Kingsbury Run. You can also, sometimes, use that name to find the offender by going forward and backward through those same trees. Even if the murderer is dead, a name can close a loop for families and for a city. That is the promise of modern work on older files. There are lessons here that help even if you never touch a cold case. One is that the way a city organizes space matters. Well-lit paths save lives. Places where those with the least gather deserve more attention, not less. Another is that headlines cut two ways. The press can lift a city to help and can also push people into easy myths that hide more than they reveal. Another is humility. The best investigators in their time did not solve everything, and neither will ours. A final one is the need to name the dead. Names make police work easier. They also give dignity to the person at the center of the page. Let's pause at the human scale. A woman named Rose walks a familiar route and does not come home. A brother of a man named Edward waits at the station every day for a week until they finally say it. Quiet, careful, with a sheet of paper on a metal desk between their hands. A man with tattoos laughs with his friends one night and vanishes into the river fog the next. A mother, years later, keeps a jar with a few coins under her bed for a bus ticket to Cleveland that she never uses. The case is not only a map and a file, it is a set of lives bent out of shape by a person who wanted power and found it in the dark. When we tell true crime stories, we make choices with our words. This case tempts some writers toward the label mad. That word gives the offender a kind of color he does not deserve. Better to say unknown, skilled, planned, and cruel, because those are the facts. Better to say unproven when we mention a suspect. Better to say according to when we pass along a claim about what Ness believed or what a particular detective thought. To be careful is to be kind. Kind to the dead, kind to the families, kind to the truth. Imagine Cleveland as the 1930s end. The Great Depression is not over, but hope has crept back into the streets. Factories hire more men. The river still smells like the work that feeds the city. The rails still shine. Kingsbury Run is still a cut in the land, but the camps are gone. The jungle is scattered. Some men found rooms. Some drifted on. Some names were never said out loud, except by the officers who wrote them on forms. And yet there is a sense, slight but real, that the worst nights have passed. If you walk the bridges over the run now, you will see a different city. The river is cleaner than it was. The lights are brighter. The trestles still stand, and the gullies still bend, and the tracks still sing when a train comes. But you carry what you know. You think of boys finding what should not be found. You think of a safety director with a problem no one could fully solve. You think of a map with too many pins and too many strings. And you think of the unknown person who moved through those years, quick and sure, and then disappeared as if the ground opened and closed behind him. There are a dozen honest ways to end a story like this. You can end in anger. You can end in sorrow. You can end with a statistic or a promise of new tests. I choose to end with two small pictures. 1. A detective at a metal desk in a quiet room. Late, a lamp throwing a circle of light on a file. He looks up at a wall of names, some whole, some labeled doe, and says them out loud. It does not solve anything. It does not bring anyone back, but it keeps faith. 2. A map of Cleveland with the run drawn in blue and the rail lines in black. Someone has added one small yellow star where a child found a clue that mattered, and another where a worker told a story that cut a week off the search. Those stars are tiny. They do not erase the pins and the string, but they show that in a city, even in its hardest chapters, people did what people do. They helped. The Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run remains a name without a face. The Cleveland torso case remains open in the only way a case can be open, when time has washed most clues away, as a set of records, as a set of families who deserve answers, and as a set of lessons we can still use. If a test tomorrow names one more victim, that is progress. If a call next week adds a detail that points to a person, that is progress too. Until then, we keep the story straight. We keep the tone calm. We keep the people at the center. If this careful walk through the Cleveland torso case helped you see the story more clearly, please like the video. Subscribe for weekly calm, fact-first true crime, and comment below. I'm curious, which single element feels most important to you here? The geography of Kingsbury Run, the skills shown in the method, the role of the press, or Eliot Ness's strategy, and why?